So, Angelo, Nvidia crushed earnings expectations on sales that rose more than 70%. Guidance was upbeat, and the stock is lower right now, down more than 3%. What is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult when it comes to the chip space and when you start thinking about needing to be contrary in nature. But, you kind of look at the numbers here. I think some investors out there might think that this might be too good of a print. And to your point, I mean, the company really hit on all cylinders here. They beat significantly as far as the quarter is concerned. They did guide better than expected, by a wide margin. Not to mention on top of that, this is a name that did run into the print here over the last couple of days. We did have Q4 earnings season from the hyperscalers, right? Essentially all of them gave CapEx guidance that was higher than expected across the board. It really started with Meta and then Alphabet when they really bumped up their CapEx to the level that they did. You knew Amazon was going to do it. And while Microsoft necessarily hasn't committed to that here for calendar 26, they're bumping up their CapEx as well dramatically from what they previously anticipated. So I think as far as the print is concerned, it was a great number, but I don't think it necessarily surprised anyone. And because of that, you're getting the lackluster reaction here in shares. And not to mention, when you look at Nvidia over the last couple of quarters, it's almost kind of been a lackluster type response.
Okay, so you rated Nvidia a strong buy going into the print. Given the fact that it's selling off, I'm assuming you would say this is a buying opportunity here, but the biggest reason you'd still be a buyer after?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So I think when you look if you're a long-term investor at this point in time, and you are a believer of this kind of shift to greater AI workloads, what I think Jensen Huang did a really good job of on the call was really sell. I think compute demand is more of this less capital intensive and more consumable driven to some extent, whereas it's essentially going to be driven with the need for more and more tokens, and as data continues to explode out there. So when I start thinking about just Nvidia and the long-term trajectory here, I don't necessarily see them as a chip company. I see them as kind of as this infrastructure platform, and you're going to continue to need to leverage this platform here in the foreseeable future because token growth is going to explode not only over the next 1 to 3 years, but over the next decade. And as a result, I think that Nvidia ecosystem continues to get stronger over time, despite some of the near-term concerns out there, whether it be bottlenecks tied to memory or the power needs out there, or whether it be tied to uncertainties about the actual end demand landscape in any given quarter.
NVIDIA's role, obviously, as the largest company, but I wonder if it is as much a bellwether of the AI tech trade as it once was, as people try to struggle for direction on where disruption is going to come from and what it's going to affect. And I wonder if it's not NVIDIA, maybe I'll get your take first on whether you think NVIDIA still is a bellwether, but if it's not NVIDIA, where do we look for that direction? I mean, we got like Citrini thought exercises, right? But I don't know what we'll have that's concrete that tells us if things are sort of being disrupted or not. Ruben, I'll go to you first on that.
Yeah, I think Gil and I are going to agree on most of what I say here, and I absolutely think NVIDIA is a bellwether. And to Gil's point, I mean, this is not just about GPUs. This is a platform solution company that is driving innovation across the AI infrastructure stack. They are building AI factories that include compute, networking, software across the stack, and they're driving innovation across the space because of that. We're seeing faster innovation on networking standards because of NVIDIA. We're seeing faster cycle times on processor development because of NVIDIA. And so I think, that's going to continue. And again, this is a company that's got the biggest R&D budget around, and they're using the R&D budget and cash flow. I mean, they're close to $100 billion in cash flow last year, and we think it's going to be well over $100 billion in cash flow this year to not only invest in the AI ecosystem, but also to invest in ancillary technologies. They recently did an acquisition, acqui-hire, I guess, of Grok to add even more potential areas of innovation around that AI infrastructure stack that they're building. And so I think that's going to continue, and that's going to be driving the rest of the industry around AI. And because of that, we absolutely think that NVIDIA is going to remain the bellwether when we speak about AI.
Gail, what do you think? Are you agreeing with everything Ruben's saying?
I agree in the sense that NVIDIA is going to capture most of the profits, right? The deployment of the AI technology is happening because of really a handful of companies: TSMC, NVIDIA, and then Microsoft, Amazon, Google. Now, the AI trade has expanded significantly to include those companies, to include the memory companies, the optical companies. And so we're no longer in a state where NVIDIA is the only determinant of where the AI trade is going. I think we're past that. And in fact, I think investors have mostly realized that they know what NVIDIA is going to report about a month earlier when Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta report. Really, we've known this positive result for a month because all those companies told us they're going to increase their CapEx. And they're the ones that we're going to learn from about the success of AI. They're the ones that have all the customers, both business customers as well as consumers through Gemini and OpenAI. And so the fact that they're telling us that not only are they continuing to build data centers, but they're increasing their CapEx, that tells us that they see the demand. They see companies using AI and committing to use AI for 3 to 5 years, which is why they're building the data centers. And they see consumers using these tools from OpenAI, from Anthropic, from Gemini more and more, and being willing to pay for them more and more, which you can see in the growth of OpenAI and Anthropic, which is absolutely unprecedented. These companies are still tripling in spite of the fact that they're at a $15 and $20 billion a year run rate now. So that's where we're going to see the success of AI. The growth of those companies, as well as the continued commitments from the deployers of data centers to continue to build out that capacity for AI compute.
What are your thoughts on the report that we got from NVIDIA and almost more importantly, the market reaction that we're seeing in response to it?
Yeah, thanks, Marley. So it's good to be on. I think, it's always odd to me as a technology analyst, as an industry analyst, to see negative reaction to positive results in the market, especially in the tech sector. I think that there are a few things going on here. Obviously, NVIDIA is doing really well. They had a blowout quarter. This is everything that we want to see. Data center spend is still super high. AI is still ramping up. But I think there's some genuine concerns for investors. First of all, in how quickly the ROI equation becomes positive, right? We're still seeing a lot of spend. We're not necessarily seeing a lot of revenue come out of it. And at some point, all these technology companies and their customers have to start telling a better story about ROI, even if it's in the near future. At least give us, a timeline, sort of a roadmap. The other thing is the transition from training to inference, and I think that's a little bit of a concern for NVIDIA that's been so dominant in training, but inference is a little bit more varied. It opens the door to a lot more CPU and NPU capabilities, which brings a lot of competition from Intel, from AMD, from Qualcomm, Amazon, Google, that sort of threatens the dominance of NVIDIA compared to how dominant it's been in the LLM training phase.
And Keith, we saw the company beat and raise again. Stock reaction has been mixed. What is the market wrestling with today, do you think? Was the bar just too high here?
No, I don't think the bar was too high. They exceeded by a lot, and they guided up a lot. I think the end issue is the hyperscalers and what they're spending on the CapEx, and we've seen that ramp up. And as that ramped up, this AI build-out, NVIDIA was a beneficiary. So now the question is, that ROI question, just the other guest just mentioned, is how quickly can those companies that are using NVIDIA chipsets actually make a return on their investment? At some point in time, the market investors are going to say, hey, wait a minute, hyperscale guys, you're spending $300 billion, $400 billion, $500, $700 billion this next year. At some point in time, if they're not earning revenue, what the fear is, then they'll cut back on the spend, which NVIDIA is directly benefiting from. So I think that's where the push is here on NVIDIA stock. And great numbers, great guidance. The one thing that we're watching is margins at 75%. So they're not deteriorating yet, but I think what investors expect is if that revenue for the hyperscalers doesn't start showing up, that will deteriorate. And that's kind of what's kind of a lid on the stock right now.
And Olivier, that gross margin number holding just north of 75%, guiding for a similar number here. How critical is that margin number to the bull case?
Oh, it's central to the bull case. But I'll add another little element about this. I think that the speed of the build outs and the constraints of energy that came up in your previous segment just before we came on are also really valid. And it's something that we're not necessarily talking about here. But the all of this hinges on being able to build these hyperscalers and building this scale for all these chips to go into. And we just don't currently have the infrastructure to build them fast enough and to power them all. And so I think that that's going to act as a brake against sort of the positive outlook on what Nvidia can deliver and what all of the market can deliver as a whole. I think it's definitely a concern there. Like we know what we could do if we had unlimited resources to support this, but we just don't.
And Keith, you highlighted the hyperscalers. They've got more than 50% of their revenue coming from them, but networking revenue jumped more than 260%, I think, from their report. Is Nvidia increasingly a data center fabric company now and not just a GPU story? And do you think that the street is properly valuing the networking piece of the business?
Yeah, they are. But again, I think some of these, the margins are what's key to watch here at 75% because competition is coming as well. NVIDIA is by far the leader in the space, and they're doing that just like you mentioned. But at some point in time, if the return is not there for their end customers, they're going to seek cheaper alternatives, even though they may not be the leader. So that's kind of, I think, what the market's trying to struggle with right now. Is like, now the valuation, we haven't talked about that yet. I think there's a support level here at 25 times this year's numbers, growing 60%. If you look at the S&P 500, trades at 22 times for 14, 15% growth rate. And then you go fast forward a year, the forecast is for 30% growth rate, and you're going to trade at 18 times, which will be cheaper than the S&P 500. So that's kind of the weird spot we are right now with Nvidia.
Dan Ives of Wedbush raising his price target on the stock to 300 and writing this: Nvidia is at the beginning of this transformational superstar narrative playing out for the tech world. Dan joins us now for more. Dan, welcome to the show. I'm going to repeat myself. I feel like a broken record, but it's got to be asked. If that's the case, why has this stock done nothing for 4 months?
Look, I think right now, the street's this glass half empty view. You look at these numbers, these are Michael Jordan-like. In terms of the beat that you saw in data center, the $78 billion for next quarter, that's almost, call it 500 to 700 bips above street. Look, I think, you hit it. Right now, everyone's focused on the losers, how AI is going to hurt. The reality is that it's all about CapEx numbers and data center demand. What you saw from Nvidia, the AI bubble essentially gets thrown out the window. And look, I think this is a stock that's ultimately up 3 to 5% today. And in my opinion, $300, as we talk about, that's probably base case to where this ultimately goes. I think we're just in one of those narratives. You follow the numbers, superstar performance.
And yet, Dan, you follow the market response too. And the market's telling you that much of what you're saying is well understood and well priced. And now we're starting to get our hands around what the transition's going to look like to Rubin from here, starting to understand potential constraints, maybe even deceleration in CapEx from here. Dan, what's your response to all of those things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my response would be, if you look at physical AI today, it's less than 3% of revenues for Nvidia. And I could argue that's probably going to be 15 to 20% when you look at the next few years. That's not factored in. I think the street continues. If you think about over the last few years in Nvidia, they underestimate what the demand is going to look like. And when you look at the trillions of dollars of spending over the next few years, there's one chip in the world fueling it, but it's the derivative impacts. I think Jensen hit on in terms of the software doomsday trade. Right now I call it an AI ghost trade. Software is going to play a huge role in terms of the use cases, and that's another ripple effect in terms of the AI.
Dan, the fact that they had 75% margins to me indicates they can charge whatever they want, that the demand is so great that they can raise prices significantly more than their input costs. And I just wonder, where is the competitive moat around that, right? How much better are their chips right now that allow them to charge whatever they want at a time where AMD's trying to come after them, Broadcom's trying to fashion chips for Microsoft and Google and all the others in order to compete with them?
Yeah, at least right now it's their world. Everyone else is paying rent. And I think I'd say they're probably 3 to 4 years ahead of any competitor. Look, they're a third-rate chip, an H200 restricted in China, even though obviously no revenues. That's better than Huawei, probably by a year or two. Now, look, obviously competition is going to continue to increase over time. Big tech will build their own chips. But right now, demand and supply is 12 to 1 for NVIDIA chips. And that's why when you look at those margins, you look at numbers, I mean, the fact that this is a stock that's under 200 relative to where I think ultimate earnings is going to play out. Now, I continue to view it as a table pounder name, despite obviously a muted reaction, at least initially.
Well, Dan, how much do you see actually some competition being posed from the others? AMD got a lot of attention this week due to their arrangement with Meta. I just wonder, given how much they have raised prices, and given the fact that not everybody needs a Michael Jordan. Some people just need an average college coach or even a high school coach to help them get to the next phase of technology. I mean, where do you see some of the pull coming from in terms of competitors?
Yeah, look, and if NVIDIA is the Jordan, like AMD could be the Scottie Pippen, right? I mean, the point is like AMD is going to play a huge role. Micron's going to play a role. You look down, like in terms of TSMC and just the whole derivatives on the supply chain. Look, obviously Intel is trying to get into the game, but just the reality is that NVIDIA is so far ahead. But you think about the spillover. Meta can't get enough chips from NVIDIA. They're going to have to go to AMD. And that's why AMD is one of our, the IVE's AI third, and it's a core winner in terms of everything Lisa Su's doing. It speaks to just this overall market opportunity. You're going to have trillions of dollars spent, and also for every dollar spent on NVIDIA chips or even overall CapEx, $8 to $10 multiplier across the rest of tech. That speaks to what I view as on software, on infrastructure. Street is massively mispricing the ripple effects that's going to happen here.
At risk of totally derailing the conversation and pulling a TK, everyone wants to know who Dennis Rodman is. No? Dan, who's Dennis Rodman of the chip world?
I mean, look, I think if you had to do Dennis Rodman here, that'd probably be the Palantir.
Yeah.
If I kind of had to put that in there to maybe go into that narrative.
That's a good response. I think they might like that too.
I'm impressed on the spot with that. And maybe the Steve Kerr would be the Microsoft.
There we go. Something sensible. That makes sense.